Hi, I'm Anna Williamson, and this is the Experian Cost of Loving podcast, where we're going to be having a serious chat about all things romance and money.
Lewis now the bigger earner than me.
Yes, I am.
Woo me, excite me.
A bit la 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 la.
And he'll be buzzing that I just said that.
I was a financial mess.
And it turns out she's got more money than he has.
Be confident in who you are, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hello there and welcome to the Experian Cost of Loving podcast with me, your host, Anna Williamson, where we delve into the nitty-gritty of dating, relationships and how they can impact your wallet. Now, today we're going to be talking all about dating debt and financial infidelity. So brace yourselves. This is going to be a good one. And hopefully, along the way, we're going to be improving your love life and your financial status too. I've got an amazing expert and someone to natter with me today all about this. It is financial content creator Megan Micklewright.
Hello, happy to be here. It's going to be a very juicy conversation.
Oh, do you know what, Megan? Juicy. That's what we want.
It's the perfect word.
It really is. It really is because this is a topic and a half. I mean, financial infidelity, dating debt. These are heavy topics, which we're going to bring in some light and shade, I think, around this.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we talk about this, that we approach this, and this is why us at Experian know how important it is. We've done the research. We know it's a thing, but so many people don't talk about it. So I think, first and foremost, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and, what a whiz you are when it comes to matters of money.
So I'm an award-winning financial content creator and I talk every day about money, making people feel more confident with their money, helping people save more, make more money. And a big thing is finances and relationships. So it really is the perfect topic to talk about.
Yeah, because in relationships, it's such a taboo, and it is one of the main reasons of relationship breakdown. Not talking about finances, differences in financial education, wants, needs, saving, spending, debt, and the thing we're going to be focusing on, financial infidelity. So for those who have tuned in and are listening, they're going, okay, you got me, fine, I'm here, I'm listening. What actually is financial infidelity?
Basically where you're not being truthful about a financial situation, you're keeping something from your partner, maybe that's a debt that you've got, you may have an addiction to something that you are keeping from them, basically lying or hiding something financially from your partner.
Yeah, and I think this is something that, I get it, people don't want to talk about because, let's be frank about it. It is packaged up with a lot of feelings that people say such as shame, embarrassment, resentment, and I get it. But equally, if you are listening to this and this does tap into you, look, it happens to so many people, and we can all find ourselves at times in our life where we're making decisions that perhaps we suddenly go, why did I do that? We all kind of get caught out. We can all get swept along with things. Sometimes we say yes to stuff that we're not actually sure, is a thing or it's a problem. I mean, I know I've done it. Fortunately, I haven't made anything catastrophic. But, sometimes just through my own ignorance, if I'm completely honest with you, you kind of say yes to something or you do something, financially, and you kind of go, oh my gosh, why did I do that? I didn't know. But financial infidelity, it's a problem, isn't it? And it's a problem in relationships. And what are your thoughts initially on it? Anything you've come across, any situations or examples that you can perhaps share with us?
Well, I think it's a big thing because money itself is such a taboo, which brings us into feeling like we need to hide things from our partner. And it's not always from a place of wanting to lie. It's sometimes shame and that guilt. And sometimes it's not over something that is shameful, like maybe you've got yourself into gambling debt or you've got yourself into fast fashion debt. It can simply just be the lifestyle that you're living and you've started to rack up debt that way and you're too scared to then admit it to your significant other, or if you're in a new relationship. It's such a taboo subject in itself that when it comes to things potentially going wrong with your finances, that's when the conversations get harder. And I've seen it, it's very prevalent at the minute on social media. We've seen lots of TikTok videos where people are making a joke about it, hiding things from their partners that they...
Yeah, I've seen that. People are finding, as you say, I mean, it's social media, but yeah, almost seeing the kind of the yes, I've got away with it type attitude. And I think that's dangerous. Don't you?
It is dangerous because we talk about being so truthful in our relationships, and financial infidelity, is it as bad as, any other infidelity? Because it comes down to that trust aspect. And if you can't trust someone with your finances, how can you trust them with anything? So in fact, although social media, it's known to make a light of things, and we joke about things that probably wouldn't usually be joked about face to face, but really, is it something to joke about that, oh, this is amazing that I've been able to hide that I've got into this much debt, or that I order all of these clothes and my partner doesn't know about it and I hide these parcels from him, for example. That's one that I see quite a lot. And it's something that, should we be making a joke out of it? And I don't think so.
Well, no, because I think you make, we can all have a sense of humour. I would say I have a very good sense of humour, but as you say, there comes a point, there's a line where just by the very nature of the word, infidelity, financial infidelity, it is cheating, or it's withholding truth. And as we all know, withholding is just as bad as doing the act as well. And the problem with that, it starts to breed distrust, conflict, and in my experience, as a relationship expert, all it does is just spirals that relationship into even more murky waters. And as you say, I'd be curious to know what kind of the comments and the general feedback is. I don't know if you've seen any of them on sort of the TikTok videos that do make fun of people that are, withholding financial information from their partners.
Most of the comments, surprisingly, are actually just going along with it, and they find it hilarious, which is actually quite shocking, because I would expect people to react quite negatively to it, that you shouldn't be hiding these things from your partner. But again, like you say, with social media, they do make a light of things, and it's where do you cross that line?
Yeah, well, this is it, and I think, and for every kind of let's have a joke with it, there is always kind of, there's the light and the shade, isn't there? And what's really interesting, so Experian, we did some amazing research actually, and debt, it's an issue, like it's a massive issue. But again, it's really important just to get across to everyone that, there's no shame in it, but only strength in being honest and open and transparent about it, particularly if we have gone so far down the road of no return, and we kind of, we got to face up to it sometimes, right? We always face up to it. But in our research with Experian, we found that 43% of people have been in financial debt from dating. I mean, that is nuts. Just from dating alone, nearly half of all people that were surveyed said that they were in debt as a result of it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a shocking figure, but at the same time, it's not really surprising.
No.
And I think that social media, again, plays such a big part, because when it comes to dating, when you've got someone new in your life, you want to impress them. And sometimes that can come in the form of spending money, taking them out on extravagant dates, wanting to buy them things, not splitting the bills when you're going out. And it can become a very, very expensive thing. And I always think once you start something, it's harder to go back on it. So if you start with a very expensive date and it's lavish and you've paid for it, then maybe it's expected the next time, and you dig yourself that bigger hole. And that's what ends up creating this debt, because before you know it, you're into this and you can't get yourself out of it because you don't want to let them down or feel like you're letting them down. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations early on in them relationships when you're getting serious with someone, and not live up to that social media expectation. Another thing that's been really big on social media is who pays for the first date.
I want to know your thoughts on this, because we've sort of been covering it across some of the other episodes that I've been doing. And it is, like I say, one of the number one topics up there. What do you think? And what's your general feedback that you get from socials on it?
I'm quite proud when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Being a financial content creator, I'm very open about money, and I would never expect anybody to pay for me. And I think that's the thing, expecting it. I've heard that some women usually go to dates without their purse because they're expecting the man to pay, because typically that's what happens.
It's so presumptuous.
And
though.
it's very
Yeah,
presumptuous.
if my daughter, I would just think that automatically there is a kind of disparity around that. It's thinking that I am too good for this. Almost that's how it comes across to me, and it sets a sour taste in the mouth, I think, personally.
It doesn't matter what you're expecting or not expecting. I think as long as you turn up and you've got money, and if whoever, whether it's the male or female, says I'll pay, you offer you offer that you want to pay half, or you'll get this, or speak about it beforehand.
Exactly, yeah, because it's just that entitled feeling, isn't it?
That's
sometimes,
it.
Which is a problem, I think, particularly with women.
Yeah.
But actually, because we know that to be true, I wish it wasn't, but it is. But to broach that topic before you go out, where are we going to go? When you're on that sort of let's set where we're going to go, as you say, to get in its infancy and to then almost just plant that seed of I am not expecting you to pay for this entire date. But you don't want to have maybe that full-blown conversation. Just what are you thinking of going? I'm thinking of, keeping things, fairly casual. Should we go somewhere quite sort of not cheap and cheerful, but, low cost, maybe just a coffee to start with. And then subtly just putting in there that you're not expecting them to pay.
Yeah.
And that and I always think it's always good to reflect about, what feels most comfortable to you.
That's it.
And, I feel comfortable maybe, just keeping it around the kind of £20 mark, shall we? What do you think? And then you've started to broach that topic up front, and then you can gauge from their reaction and that's actually quite telling of them. They might go, oh, I'm so pleased you said that, because, who's got the money to do that? Or, oh, you know what, fine, we'll keep it, but I'd like to treat you maybe next time. You can start to gauge the language and also what that person's about, which is so much more than money, right?
Yeah, and it depends on what you feel comfortable with. Like you say, you can go in and you can say, oh, wow, if we're going out for drinks, I'll buy the first round, without talking about actual money, broach the money subject, but without actually speaking about the figure. Or if you're going for dinner and drinks, say, well, you can get the drinks and I'll get the dinner, sort of thing. And then as your dates go on, you will then have a more open approach to where you're going and what you're doing and who's paying. But it all comes back to that. What you start off is what you end up doing for every single thing that you do together. So the first day, if the guy pays and you haven't broached the subject at all, the next time you meet, you are probably expecting him to pay, and he's probably expecting you to
pay.
Yeah.
We can't change others, but we can change the way that we behave. And I always sort of say to people is, as long as you are forthcoming with what you believe in and your beliefs and your values, and I wouldn't expect someone to pay for me. I do love a bit of chivalry. I am married, so I'm not actually actively dating. But it's okay to kind of put it out there and just say, I'm very happy to, be treated, but equally I would very much like to contribute. Or as you say, a big trend now in dating is if it's going well. I always say it's perfectly fine to sort of split the bill on a first date, because you don't know where it's going to go. But then on the next one, I'm going to get the next one. If someone insists, and you can be gracious in accepting that or not. But again, it's doing that little dance.
And that sort of conversation can weave into relationships as well. You don't have to specifically talk about money to talk about money, especially when you're first getting to know someone. You can say, oh, do you prefer spending or saving?
Right.
What do you like to do in your spare time? What do you spend money on? That sort of thing, without saying, how much do you earn, what do you do? That, not grilling them about money itself, but things that give you a little bit
of an idea.
Yeah.
It's such a, and I like to throw in the kind of, pastimes and almost kind of weaving in a bit of your family upbringing. You can find out a lot by, tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up? What was your family situation like? And people, if it's a thing for them, they tend to weave in some sort of description around, actually it was quite tough, growing up, or I grew up in this area, and we all start to create a storyboard, don't we, over the little nuggets of information someone says, and we build up a picture about what they might be like, what their financial background or attitudes might be around money. Asking someone, if they're going on holiday or where they last went on holiday, I think is a really, really good one, and a telling one when it comes to finances, because you get a gist of, do they have a load of money, or are they buying that on credit card if they're saying they've been to, Maldives, then skiing, then this, then bang, 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 bang. Maybe they do have a load of money. Maybe they have put it on credit. But it gives you an idea around their tastes, I think, or indeed, I've been on holiday for, since the pandemic. It
Yeah.
gives you an idea, I think, of figuring out where that attitude comes from as well. Is it because they're a saver, and don't like to spend?
Yeah, and it's always good to get them conversations in, because especially with social media now, we keep pointing back to it, but it's
so
such
important,
a prevalent
yeah.
thing that you can base sometimes wrong assumptions
Yes.
of people's lives from social media. You could meet someone and say, oh, I know they drive this car, I can see that they do this job, they're always on holiday, and you could think actually this person has money, but how do you know that they're not getting themselves in debt for that lifestyle they're showing?
Right, or I've got it for free.
Yeah.
It's transactional in some way.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely spot on. But it's a very important point, to be honest, Megan, because, so many people do measure themselves now against what they see on social media, celebrities, on the telly, on all the different platforms, and aspire to that level of perceived wealth.
Yeah.
I know people that are, early 20s, and they really are living what I would consider a millionaire lifestyle on a 24 grand salary. And I think, my God, how are you sustaining that? And then you look at what they're doing at the weekends and what money they're, I look sometimes at their shoes, the trainers, and thinking, I can't afford those. And I consider myself fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
But again, it's about priorities. And I'm not knocking people for wanting to spend their hard-earned money on whatever they want to spend it on. But it is about priorities. And the point we're really talking about today is debt. Financial infidelity and debt, because it all sounds fun and looks bougie and looks sexy and, Instagram filter, in the first instance. But if you're starting off on that wrong foot with your expectations placed on someone you're dating to have a certain lifestyle or spend associated with your pastimes together, unless they can really sustain that, which statistically they aren't going to be able to.
Yeah.
Not when the average wage is around 30 grand a year. What is then coming up next? Where's that going to land you? And typically, if you can't sustain that, one would suggest then the relationship's going to end, and then you've ended yourself with a whole load of debt. As my dad always said to me, it ain't much fun paying something back once you've eaten it.
No, very true. Very, very true. But it's the expectation, isn't it? And also talking about it, because if you are trying to sustain something that you actually can't, where's it going to end up? It's going to either end up with you in a whole bunch of debt, the relationship ending, or you hiding something from your partner that you now need to come clean about, because in the end, you'll have to come clean about it unless the relationship ends, in which there's no good situation, because it's either going to come out or you've got to pay the debt. So
you're gonna have a ruddy great argument anyway.
That's
about
it.
And especially if you get married, because obviously your debt is their debt, and vice versa. And I see so many couples. You literally put your face in your hand and you go, oh God, you haven't got down, and they suddenly disclose to me as a relationship coach, he's just told me or she's just told me that she's got 20 grand's worth of credit card debt, from before we met. And it's like, and now I know about it, and now we can't get a mortgage, or because we haven't cleared that debt. It's so problematic. And I think what I really want to get through, to anyone listening now is, look, we all get it, right? We all make mistakes, decisions, good decisions, bad decisions, and it's about just taking away that shame and stigma and judgment and going, look, it is a decision I made. I'm certainly not the first person that's done it, but what can I do now? And the first thing is confide in your partner, because you need them to be alongside you, not against you on this one. If you've got a chance of, really, and actually your relationship can grow even better as a result of it. What I think was interesting is going on the socials, we were saying how important that is. Whitney Port, American TV star, she recently admitted, because I think credit card debt is so up there with what people don't disclose, typically if it's been pre-relationship, 35 grand's worth of credit card debt. She kept it a secret before she got married to her husband. I mean, I don't know, you're in a long-term relationship, but I'd be fuming if my husband didn't disclose that before we got married. I'd literally think, are you joking? Where's the annulment?
Yeah, I'd be fuming. And also, weddings are so expensive. And to marry someone without disclosing something like that, give them the chance to decide what they kind of want to do. Because I guess it depends, because if the debt's from, years ago and they're still paying it off, but you can tell from their personality and their ways that they're not that sort of person anymore, they don't have impulsive spending, and it's something that you can get through together
Yeah.
and you can help them pay it off. I mean, me, if my partner was to tell me something like that before we were getting married, I'd be like, call the wedding off, not because I don't want to marry you, but because this money could be better spent elsewhere. Let's eliminate this debt. And it's about sharing problems, because when you share a problem, it's a problem halved, you know. And
it really is.
it will take that weight off you. And once you get it off your chest, you always realise it was never as bad as you thought. So just get it off your chest, have the conversations. Money makes the world go round, and our whole lives depend on money, essentially. So why aren't we talking about it more openly?
Well, because I think, because we have to, and also we know that it eventually comes out.
That's it.
It always comes out in the end, and it's just far better to have those honest, upfront chats, you know, early doors. I'm curious to know, because we talked about credit scores and stuff, because they can be really affected by debt, as we know. As I say, I think that's where entering into a relationship with undisclosed debt or financial bad habits is really up there, you know, as in my opinion, as sort of going into that relationship, marriage, saying, well, actually, I've just cheated with someone, you know, last week. You know, I think it's really important because of the impact it can then have on your married life, you know, on any loans you need to get in the future, you know, everything that we know. It's hard enough, as we know, to get mortgages and stuff like that. I'm curious to know, you personally, has your credit score ever been negatively affected by somebody else or anyone you know?
Not personally, but there's something very, and I actually only found this out a couple of months ago, my dad set up a business and my mum took on all the debt for him.
Wow.
And then they split up and she was left with all this debt that she couldn't then pay off. And she had to declare herself bankrupt because she couldn't pay off this debt.
Gosh.
And, you know, you take on this load for the person that you love, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. And it depends how stable this person is or what setup you have. You know, is this person going to pay you back £100 a month, for example, for the debt you now have in your name for them? And I think that
that is a labour of love, isn't it?
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
But so many people do it.
I know people that have done
bills in their name for the
bills,
people,
mortgages,
car
loans.
It's,
I know it.
It happens more often than you think.
It does.
And people
so
do
right.
it very early on in relationships when they don't know this person. And I mean, my mum knew my dad well. They was together. They had children. But you still don't know how something's going to end. No. And that's not to say, you know, you should say, well, I'm not doing anything for you ever, because we never know how it's going to end. But it's having a backup plan in place. You know, if we were to split up, what are we going to have in place? Is there a standing order? Is there a contract that we can just sign that's, you know, some sort of legally binding? Because you can have all the love for somebody when you're together, but you never know how sour things are going to go if you was to split up. And I know this conversation is meant to be more about dating in the early stages, but when you meet someone, you've got to think about the long term and what's going to happen and where you want it to go. Because
as we know, rose-tinted glasses, and say we want everyone to be full of the romance and the joy, and we love all that. But again, we're being real, you know, and we have to be real because, every relationship has its challenges anyway. So as much as you can, do that due diligence, be honest, be open, be transparent with your partner before you've made some of those massive decisions, to then tackle them before. Your partner will appreciate you so much more for that, from the transparency, than suddenly landing them in a massive hole after the event and going, oh yeah, sorry about that, I kind of forgot to tell you. We had some really interesting research that came through from Experian, and it found, this one was really interesting, 19% of Brits have been in a relationship that ended due to financial trouble. So it's 1 in 5, okay? And I know that the stat is often touted around that it's one of the biggest causes of relationship breakdown are finances. But that's massive, you know, 1 in 5. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, 1 in 5 people, it shows that people are just not being open financially with their partner.
Yeah, it's all about being open and honest. I think that the figure, again, it's a surprising figure, but at the same time, it's not shocking because I touched on it earlier, but money, everything is based on money, especially in relationships. You know, you share all of your bills. A lot of people have joint accounts if you've got kids, you know, they go to different classes, and there's so much going on with money. And especially if your partner has got some sort of impulse spending or you just can't live up to the lifestyle, it causes stress, and stress is the thing that causes the arguments. And if you took money away, a lot of people would say, well, that's the only thing we argue about.
You're absolutely right with that. Yeah, and actually, it's cute. Well, I'd be curious to know. I'm just thinking now. Yeah, couples that are typically struggling financially, yeah, tend to be. It's a lot more pressure on their relationship than it is on couples that are financially kind of ticking along nicely. And it doesn't mean you have to have loads of money. You just have to be aligned.
Yeah, on the same page.
Same page.
Yeah.
So you can have next to nothing, but as long as you're on the same page and you're both happy or committed to any cutbacks you need to make or what the long-term plan is, I always talk about having like marriage meetings, financial meetings every month. What are we saving for? Is there anything we're saving for? Is there anything you want to do? Do we need to be doing an escape fund, a backup fund for anything? What lots of people nowadays are talking about, putting money away for healthcare, because of where we are, in the political sort of climate at the moment. So it is really important to keep having those open, honest chats. What do we need money for?
Yeah.
Is there any money left over for supporting a hobby or supporting that, or really isn't there? And it's it is all about that compromise. I'm curious, have you ever been aware of anyone that's ended their relationship due to finances?
I haven't, but I would say that a lot of people do, especially in the early days as well, because you can create this picture of someone that in fact isn't true. And in the early days, I think it's very easy to get the ick with someone. And if you think they live this lavish lifestyle and then all of a sudden you realise that actually this person's in debt, they haven't told you about it, you could go off a person pretty quickly. And that's not to say debt's shameful, because it isn't.
It's the untruth.
It's not being truthful about it. So I don't know anybody personally that has done that, but I'm sure there is a lot of people out there that have.
Yeah, I do actually, and it's just in my work as a relationship coach, and typically I would say the relationships that break down around money, is to do with financial infidelity. It's hiding debt, it's hiding spending habits, and it's caused distrust. It's caused so much stress that actually the financial side of it becomes the symptom, but they've ended up rowing and this and that and not having sex anymore and all of that, so they end up breaking up.
And it causes so much more.
Yeah, but then the symptom has been the driver because of financial infidelity and problems around that. So I do think it's so important just to kind of, it's like forewarned is forearmed, isn't it? And that's kind of what we're doing with this podcast, really, with Experian, is just trying to give the advice and the tools and the techniques and the wisdom from our point of view to kind of help people make better decisions overall for their finances and for their love lives as well. The other last little bit that I wanted to put up here or bring up was 27% of Brits have lied about their financial situation to a partner. And this is a massive stat. 5% of men have been in over 10 grand's worth of debt from funding dating and relationships. I mean, this is serious debt.
It's a crazy amount when you think about it.
But the amount of people, 5% of men, like, that's a lot of people.
That's
a
big
lot
stat.
of people. Yeah, I mean, what's the population? 70 million or something? I mean, that's a lot of people. Wow. I mean, where do you think this pressure is coming from?
Social media.
Yeah.
It all stems down to social media. I mean, not all of it. It can come down to what's happened in the past generations in your family, the expectations from your family. But social media, especially with influencers being so big now in today's generation, that they are flaunting wealth, driving lovely cars, constantly going on these huge trips and buying each other constant designer, going to all these really expensive restaurants, and all of a sudden we see it on our timelines and we want to live up to that without thinking actually they can afford that because of this and this. Their situation is completely different. And I remember when I first left school and I got my first full-time job, and I was seeing people the same age as me at Christmas. They were buying each other like Louis Vuitton handbags, Moncler coats.
It's a Louis Vuitton, isn't it?
And I would sit there and think, how do you afford this? You seem to have the same sort of job as me. Surely we must be on the same sort of salary. How do you afford this? And you start to think, am I doing something wrong with my money?
You're so right.
Am I struggling?
Am I not financially savvy? What do they know that I don't? You do. But actually, when you unpack it all, most of the time, in my experience of unpacking it all, it's people are living off a lie.
Yeah.
and they
There's
are living.
debt creeping in, and even without that debt element, people, you may have a home and you may pay £900 in rent, but they may live at home. They may have been given some money when a family member died. They may have had so many things that you can't see from a screen. They have so much going on behind that screen. And again, it's pointing back to that highlight reel. Everything you see on social media is what they want you to see.
Yes.
Of course, you won't want tens of thousands of strangers to see the debt that you have.
No one wants to see you sitting on your bed crying because you can't, make your credit card payment that month. I mean, that ain't a sexy reel. Do you know what I mean? And it is really important to remember that. And that's not being, disparaging to anyone that does find themselves in that situation. Just nothing but empathy for that and sympathy.
Yeah.
Megan, I've loved talking to you so much. Just sage advice and good sense. I mean, what would you say has been your kind of standout point or takeaway from this chat we've had?
Just being open and honest from the get-go. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you implement it,
take it to church.
That is my partner's
church.
favourite saying. He'll be buzzing that I just said that. But it's so true. If you start something, that's how you will go on with it, and just be honest and open from the get-go, and you can't go wrong.
She's not wrong. That is it for this episode of our Experian Cost of Loving podcast. We've, of course, been talking today about dating debt, financial infidelity. And one thing is for sure, that financial infidelity, it ain't sexy. So let's wise up, let's smarten up, and let's do you, honey. Until next time. If you're struggling with money worries or debt, then you're not alone, but help is available. Whilst the first step is often the hardest, it's also the most important. You can reach out to Step Change, Citizens Advice, or National Debtline, who all offer free, independent advice for a wide range of money issues.